All right, good morning, Board Chair Postman and Member Vollendroff. The lobbies are open and the recording has begun.
Thank you, Dustin. Good morning, everybody. We'll convene the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board meeting for Wednesday, March 29th, 2023. Member Garrett is out sick today, but Member Vollendroff is here. We have a quorum, and so we have a full agenda. We'll jump in. Just as a general reminder, if you're in the room here, please silence your cell phone. Take any sidebar conversations out to the lobby. The microphones in here are sensitive and pick every little thing up. Our first item today is a proposal for the board to adopt emergency rules regarding the social equity application window. And Daniel Jacobs will present that for us. Mr. Jacobs.
Thank you, Chair Postman and Member Vollendroff. This morning, I'd like to ask for your approval to file emergency rules concerning an extension of the current 30-day window to accept applications for the Social Equity and Cannabis Program. The current application window is scheduled to close tomorrow, March 30th, 2023. For background, as part of the Social Equity and Cannabis Program application process, some applicants seek to form a new business entity by applying for certification as a limited liability company or a similar business structure through the Washington Secretary of State's office. Early last week, we learned that there had been an unforeseeable and unexpected delay at the Secretary of State's office, resulting in new business entity application processing, creating a backlog of over 10 days. We believe that this delay is likely to impact the timely completion of all necessary requirements for some social equity program applicants seeking to form a new business entity. And for this reason, we believe that an immediate temporary extension of the application window from 30 to 58 days is necessary to provide equitable opportunity for potential applicants to complete the social equity application process. Now, why are we doing 58 days and not 60? So this is actually deliberate because it aligns with the operational practices of the state's Department of Revenue's Business Licensing Services, or BLS. BLS accepts and processes Liquor and Cannabis Board licensing applications. As an operational matter, BLS is required to close the application window on a Thursday, meaning that the application window will close on April 27th, 2023 at 5 p.m. And the number of days between March 1st, which is when we opened the window, and April 27th is 58 days. Immediate adoption of this rule is necessary to preserve general welfare, including commerce and business, as they relate to the Social Equity and Cannabis Program, its application process, and program applicants by ensuring a fair and equitable opportunity for Washingtonians to participate in the program, including those who are disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. And lastly, I want to emphasize that this emergency rule does not revise or otherwise change any other requirement of the existing social equity program application process, including submission of required documents as described in rule. It simply provides a one-time temporary extension of time in which to apply based on an unforeseeable processing delay. And if approved for filing today, I will file the CR 103E and the rule text with the code revisor, and consistent with RCW 3405350 concerning emergency rules, the rules will become effective immediately upon filing. And under the timeline, we plan to come back to the board during its regularly scheduled meeting on May 10th to request withdrawal of these rules if they are approved, since they'll no longer be necessary at that time. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments, Member Vollendroff?
I don't think so. I think I heard enough yesterday in caucus to fill me in. I do, this is all about equitable access, and I believe that this is the right thing to do. And it's unfortunate that there were unforeseeable delays, but it sounds like other state agencies have been working with us, and we are on track, assuming that we make this small adjustment here. So appreciate the update.
Yeah, I would agree with that. When this came to my attention, an extension was the last thing I wanted to do, just because we're all anxious to keep moving, but it is the only way to give everybody the fair chance. This is not not related to people filing late or not getting their work done or following our checklist. This was a internal problem to state agencies, and there's just no way for us to go and find those applicants without doing this and making sure that we capture everybody who rightfully has the right to apply for this program. So I support it as well. And with that, then I'll take a motion to approve adoption of emergency rules 103E regarding the social equity application window.
I make a motion that we, the board adopt emergency rules regarding the social equity application window.
Yeah, and I second that, then that is approved. Nice job on that, Mr. Jacobs. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Next up is rules petition review and consideration. This is the rules petition from John Kingsbury requesting changes to WAC 314-55020 and 314-55080 regarding revocation of medical endorsements. Back to you, Mr. Jacobs.
Thank you. And good morning again. I'm here again to present the agency's response to a petition for rulemaking submitted by John Kingsbury regarding medical cannabis endorsements for cannabis retailers. The agency received this petition on January 31st, and the petitioner specifically has requested amending the rule to create a mechanism for the board to remove a medical cannabis endorsement from retailers that no longer meet the requirements. These requirements are found in Washington Administrative Code 314-55080 and in RCW 69-5375. And the petitioner has requested a revision to 314-55080 rather than a legislative change. And endorsements are additions to licenses that change the circumstances under which regulated substances can be sold. While there are dozens of endorsements for various types of liquor licenses, this is the only endorsement available to cannabis licensees. WAC 314-55080 requires medical cannabis endorsement holders to, among other things, have a cannabis consultant on staff, maintain a representative assortment of medically compliant cannabis products, and be able to issue recognition cards to qualifying patients and enter those patients into the relevant Department of Health database. I just mentioned the Department of Health, and the Washington State Department of Health regulates the certification of the cannabis consultants, as well as the issuance of the recognition cards, and lastly, what counts as medically compliant product. The Liquor Cannabis Board has a list on our website that's updated weekly that identifies the retailers with currently valid medical cannabis endorsements. And as of a couple weeks ago, the last I checked while finishing drafting my response, there were 235 retailers with valid endorsements. Relevant to the petition, there's already a subsection of WAC 314-55080 that states that failure to comply with the various requirements for maintaining the endorsement can result in suspension or revocation of the endorsement. Specifically, this is subsection 6. So it seems that the conceptual change that the petitioner is seeking is actually already in rule. For some additional history, since October, the petitioner has been in frequent contact with various staff and managers within both Enforcement and Education Division and the Licensing Division regarding his concerns on whether the listed retailers meet the relevant requirements. As a result, licensing contacted 289 retailers with a series of questions related to the endorsement requirements. And as a result, 51 retailers voluntarily surrendered their endorsements since October. Some agency staff have noted that the consultant requirements specifically can be especially difficult to keep entirely up to date. If a retailer has one consultant on staff and that consultant quits on a Thursday, I'm not sure how reasonable it is to expect the retailer to notify LCB on the Friday that they no longer meet the requirements for the endorsement. Hiring people can take a couple weeks, and there's nothing in rule that addresses this lag time. Similarly, if something happens and a retailer runs out of medically compliant product, or there's some sort of technical malfunction with the card machine, they immediately become ineligible for the endorsement. And as the rule currently stands, they no longer have a valid endorsement and shouldn't be on the list. However, these sort of realities of business operations aren't reflected in the rule language, and this has been something that has been flagged by internal staff. Lastly, I want to note the importance of having up-to-date information on where medical cannabis patients can go for medically compliant product, and to note that this is especially important because of the reliance of medical cannabis patients on compliant cannabis to address their ailments. As I mentioned yesterday, I've identified 3 options that the board has for responding to this petition. And as also discussed yesterday, these aren't the only 3 options out there. The first option, as I see it, would be to deny the petition and leave things there. This maintains the status quo. The logic behind this would be that the petitioners asked for there to be revocation authority added to the rule, and that's already in the rule. The risk of this is that the petitioner's complaints are likely to continue, and this will likely continue to take up enforcement and education staff time. Additionally, we'll still have a list up that in theory contains retailers that don't legitimately qualify for the medical cannabis endorsement. And those retailers may benefit by being publicly identified as having an endorsement that they shouldn't have. I'm not able to identify an immediate benefit to this option, but that's the analysis of that first option. The second one would be to deny the petition for a similar reason, that the specific rule change is already in effect, but rather to provide some sort of, instead of sort of leaving it there, provide a public-facing message or some sort of guidance document to cannabis retailers regarding requirements described in rule for maintaining a cannabis endorsement. Such a message or guidance may provide additional contact information for relevant LCB staff and directions on how to cancel their medical cannabis endorsement if they no longer qualify. I will note that recently LCB, through the Topics and Trends blog post and through other messaging, has done something similar, but nevertheless, this is still an option that is a little more nuanced than the denying the petition and essentially doing nothing. The risk here is that, as with the first option, the petitioner may continue to complain regarding the list of endorsement holders. Additionally, as with any public-facing message, there's a risk of misinterpretation or confusion on the part of readers. However, that's not a risk exclusive to this option. That's just a risk of any kind of public communication. The benefit would be that providing some additional guidance might be a faster way to address the concerns than would be the traditional rulemaking path. However, at the same time, it might not fully address the petitioner's concerns or concerns that have subsequently been brought up by internal staff. Additionally, the messaging, however, a benefit may be that this messaging may prompt non-compliant retailers to come into compliance in order to maintain their medical cannabis endorsement. And lastly, the board can accept the petition, agree to initiate the rulemaking process regarding amending Washington Administrative Code 314-55080 in order to address other concerns brought up. Now, it's not clear that we would be adding authority for revocation of medical cannabis endorsements because that's already there. But however, as I've previously identified, there are other issues within the rule language as it currently stands that could be addressed. There could be additional penalties, just throwing it out there, or just other sort of, we could add some sort of cure time for when a cannabis consultant leaves, or if there's an issue with the machine, or address any sort of other issue regarding the medical cannabis endorsement regulation. The risk here would be that retailers that don't currently qualify for the endorsement may retain the endorsement during the rule development process. I will note that that's not a risk exclusive to this option, and that is also a risk regarding any of the options. The benefit would be that, it may be a stronger encouragement to non-compliant retailers to return to compliance. And additionally, a benefit would be that, as with other rulemaking, we'd be allowing for collaborative stakeholder involvement and possible additional clarity to rule language in a public-facing and thorough way. As mentioned earlier, and as Dr. Hoffman mentioned yesterday, I'm not going to be making a specific recommendation, but these were the options as I see it. Lastly, there's an additional option mentioned where we could address the petition, we could address the concerns through rulemaking and expand the scope. However, that still is accepting the petition. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Since we don't have a specific recommendation in front of us, we'll have to talk about what it is we want to propose. Give you my thought real quick, which is I kind of like option 3. I think, I agree with the analysis that says we have the authority, but I'm more interested in the fact that there are other pieces of this, as you pointed out in your briefing, Mr. Jacobs, where we're not really able to necessarily efficiently exercise that authority, given some of the shortcomings that are in the rules. Like the example you gave, if a consultant leaves the job the next day, they're theoretically not allowed to hold that endorsement. That doesn't make sense to me. But we also don't want them to wait 6 months or a year or never follow up. So it seems to me there's work that could be done. I've talked with leadership and licensing today. I think they believe that there's some productive work that could be done by accepting this petition and looking at what else can be done around this. Even though, again, I think we have the authority, but we need to be able to find a way to make it more efficient. Member Volendorf, any thoughts, questions?
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts. I am not one to open up processes unnecessarily. However, I think that this is an important issue, and we have it's been brought to our attention, and it seems like not only is there opportunity within rulemaking to address some of the concerns, but maybe some internal processing as well. And so I think that by accepting the proposal gives us that opportunity. So I'm supportive of accepting the proposal at this point.
Great. Okay. Then, in fact, if you would, we can entertain a motion to accept the petition submitted by John Kingsbury requesting changes to WAC 314-55020 and 314-55080 regarding revocation of medical endorsements.
This is Jim, and I make a motion that we accept this proposal regarding revocation of medical endorsements.
Great, and I'll second it, and then that is approved. Thank you for that, Mr. Jacobs. Now we'll move to our next petition be presented by Cassidy West. This is submitted by Micah Sherman, requesting amendments to rule allowing mailing of checks within 3 days of product delivery. Ms. West, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Postman, and good morning, Board Member Volendorf. So on February 6, 2023, the board received a petition for adoption, amendment, or repeal of a state administrative rule from Micah Sherman. The petitioner requests that the agency amend WAC 314-55115 subsection 1 to allow checks to be mailed and postmarked within 3 business days of delivery, including the date of delivery. Under the current rules, payment is required prior to or at the time of delivery. Currently, WAC 314-55115 provides that only cash or other forms of payment that the board recognizes as cash, including prepaid accounts, checks, credit and debit cards, electronic funds transfers, and transactions using a money transmitter, may be used as payment for cannabis in transactions between licensees, and payment must be made prior to or at the time of delivery. With regards to checks, this presumably means that the check has been received by the seller prior to or at the time of delivery. However, this is not specifically addressed in the rules. Under subsections 2, 3, and 5 of WAC 314-55115, respectively, the payments using credit and debit cards, electronic fund transfers, and money transmitters may be initiated up to 1 business day following the delivery. In addition, payment for electronic fund transfers and money transmitters, payment doesn't have to be completed until 5 days following the delivery. So WAC subsection 6 of the rule further provides that if a transaction is reported as having non-sufficient funds, the purchaser must pay the full amount of the transaction to the seller by 3 p.m. on the first business day following the delivery. Until the NSF transaction is paid, the cannabis licensee who received the transaction may not deliver any cannabis to the purchaser. And it's the responsibility of the purchaser to not receive any additional cannabis from another licensee. By rule, any transaction reported as having non-sufficient funds is considered to be an extension of credit. If a prepaid account is used in cash and a cash deposit is overextended, it is considered to be an extension of credit as well. And if a licensee makes an attempt to delay payment on a money transmitter for any period of time, it's considered an unlawful attempt to purchase products on credit. And to provide some context regarding this rule, LCB's initial rulemaking framework was designed to regulate cannabis like alcohol. So WAC 314-55115 and WAC 314-55108 were directly informed by the alcohol rules. However, the alcohol statutes do not control any of the cannabis business activity. So Chapter 6950 RCW, the controlling statute for cannabis, does not speak to money advances as a violation of tier restrictions. And this is going back into the basis of the rule in regards to an extension of credit. Is, I guess, generally there's concerns regarding undue influence with regards to extension of credit. So it is, so going back, Chapter 6950 RCW, which is the controlling statute for cannabis, does not speak to money advances as a violation of the tier restrictions, which goes back to the alcohol rules. Instead, with respect to cannabis, the board exercises broad rulemaking authority, including how business transactions such as payments are addressed in the rule. It is unclear how the proposed rule revision might impact LCB divisions. Feedback did varied from suggesting no impact to expressing a belief that the requested rule revision would require legislative rather than regulatory action. Today, I present the following policy options to the board to consider in response to the petitioner's request. Deny the petition, and the risk associated with that may be the logistical issues cited by the petitioner related to mailing checks in advance of the delivery will not be mitigated. Additionally, businesses will not have the flexibility to conduct business operations that are consistent with usual and common business practices. A benefit of option 1, denying the petition, is to maintain the status quo. Option 2 would be to accept the petition and agree to amend WAC 314-55115 subsection 1 and allow checks for purchasing cannabis being mailed and postmarked within 3 business days of delivery, including the date of delivery. One of the risks associated with that is it is possible that even if the board approves the petition and the agency enters into the rule inquiry, that no rule change may occur, or the rule change may not necessarily align with the petitioner's request. This can occur for a variety of reasons, including but not limited to stakeholder feedback during rule workshops and feedback received on the CR 101 if filed. One of the benefits to accepting this rule petition would be cannabis businesses will have the additional flexibility to conduct business in a manner that would be consistent with common and usual business practices, which supports the agency's overarching social equity goal. Thank you. And does anyone have any questions?
Thank you for that. One, just, and I should know this, but so if we accept a petition, then the next step would be adoption of a 101, or do you is that right? So you still sort of go through the regular rulemaking after the acceptance, right?
Yes.
So this is pre-proposal statement of inquiry, right?
Yes.
To look at whether we want to move. Okay. I think it's, I did reach out, or the petitioner reached out to me with a little more information, which helped me a little, but I'm still a little bit of a loss around some of the concerns raised by this, which to me, speaks to accepting it for that at least pre-proposal inquiry. We talk about usual and common business practices and this aligning with it, which is good, but we always have that federal cloud hanging over all of this, and that's part of it too. So it isn't a usual or common business yet. It is a little bit different, and so we've been, I think, sensitive to that, but also trying to evolve as we get past, we're getting close to 10 years of operation. I think there's some logic to having alcohol and cannabis align as much as possible. So there's a lot of questions I have, and it seems to me at least that accepting the petition allows us to have that conversation and then come back and decide whether we actually proceed with rulemaking. Thoughts, Member Vollendorf?
Thank you for your comments, Chair Postman, first of all. And Cassidy, I think that you did a great job of presenting this. And I just want to make sure that if we do accept this, you pointed out that this doesn't necessarily mean that the outcome is going to be as requested by the petitioner, and that that's one possibility, but there are also other potential outcomes of accepting this. And I appreciate you bringing that up. Interesting, David, that you brought up the usual business practices, because I was thinking the same thing. Well, that is true, but this isn't necessarily usual business. However, having said that, I think that there are certain stigmas associated with cannabis still that we need to continue to push back at. And to the degree that it makes sense that we can align our processes for alcohol and cannabis, I think it makes sense. So from that perspective, I think it makes sense for us to accept this for discussion and move forward.
Great, good. Yeah, and I would align myself with what both of you have said. It obviously doesn't mean we proceed, but it's worthy of that conversation. So with that, we'll look for a motion to accept the petition from Micah Sherman requesting amendments to the rule allowing mailing of checks within 3 days of product delivery.
I make a motion that we accept this request in rulemaking, allowing mailing of checks within 3 days of product delivery.
Great. I second that, and that is approved. Thank you, Ms. West. Oh, the other thing I should say is it's also another possibility that we end up with a different number than 3 days. Maybe it's a shorter time. Maybe there's some logistical help that comes with a single day time. So these are all things we can look at, and I look forward to that. So thank you for the thorough briefing on that one as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cassidy.
Move to the alcohol side now. Jeff Kildall will present the CR 101 for our approval relating to private club membership drives. Mr. Kildall.
Yeah, good morning, Chair Postman and Member Vollendorf. This morning, I'm presenting a CR 101 pre-proposal package to consider revising WAC 314-40-040 subsection 6 to permit private clubs licensed under RCW 6624-450 or RCW 6624-452 to add additional membership drives or host consecutive membership drives. This possible rulemaking would also consider amendment, repeal, or the creation of a new rule section in Title 314 WAC needed to align potential revisions to WAC 314-40-040. For a brief background, the board accepted a rulemaking petition on this issue on September 14th, 2022, which asked the agency to consider updates to this WAC section that would allow private clubs to add one additional membership drive per calendar quarter where club liquor may be given or sold as part of the membership drive activities. And this would be for a total of 8 events per year. and to host a consecutive membership drive during 1 quarter per calendar year. The petition stated the requested rule change would allow private club organizations to, quote, to be able to reach out to the community more and showcase the good works we do within our community, the state of Washington, and across the nation, unquote. So if approved today for filing with the Office of the Code Revisor, notice of the CR 101 would be published in the Washington State Register on April 19th, 2023. And under this timeline, the informal comment period for the CR 101 would end on April 14th, 2023. And we would tentatively expect to bring forward a CR 102 package with proposed rule language for your approval on May 24th, 2023. And under this timeline, this would allow for the public hearing to be held on July 5th, 2023, and for consideration of the CR 103 permanent rule package on July 19th, 2023, which would give the rule an effective date of August 19th, 2023. So this concludes my presentation on the CR 101 package, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
I just have one for us, just trying to pull up your memo here, but you could answer it. What did we hear from public comment period? Anything of opposition, substance, concerns?
There has been no public comment period yet. We accepted the petition last year, and this is the first step to provide public notice of the possible rulemaking. So we haven't fielded any comments on this from the public other than just routine communication from the petitioner.
Okay, thank you. Questions, Jim?
I have no questions.
Okay, I think we'll then see if there's a motion to approve CR 101 for private club membership drives.
Yep, this is Jim, and I make a motion that we approve the CR 101 for private club membership drives.
Great, I second, then that is approved. Thanks, Mr. Gildall, appreciate that.
Thank you, Chair
Jeff.
Postman.
Okay, we are to the part of the meeting for general public comment. Everyone will have 4 minutes to speak. Please try to limit your comments to LCB business, refrain from personal attacks or going off topic into things unrelated to what we do here. I will try to mention if I think the speaker has wandered too far. Please be respectful to the speakers and everyone else who is present, whether virtually or in person. Any disruption to the meeting or interruption to people making the comment. If there is any kind of disruption, I'll pause public comment until we're able to settle that. Just a reminder, we record everything. It'll be available online. If you're in the room, just a reminder, the microphones are super sensitive and pick up even rustling papers. If you're joining us online, please give us a second to connect you and we will do that. Dustin will give you a quick alert when you have 30 seconds left in your comment period, and then we'll have to wrap it up. We will start with people online, and the first person signed up is Sammy Sod.
Good morning, Chair. This is Dustin. Sammy Sod registered to speak, but is not online today.
Okay, we'll check back with them in just a bit. The second person then is Christopher King.
Hola, folks. Are we ready?
You bet. Loud and clear.
Terrific,
Morning.
Terrific. I just want to say at the first instance, a lot of things that you consider personal attacks are not really personal attacks. You just say that they are when they're really not, and they pertain directly to things that are at issue or brought into issue by some of your bootlickers there that raised it last time. You know, the whole thing that happened with Tabor 100. I didn't bring that up. Anyway, let me just move ahead. First order of business. I see now that under SB 5405, you guys now have subpoena powers. That's kind of scary because you're not a law enforcement agency. You never have been. probably never will be, but now you've got subpoena powers. So I'm just putting this out there to let the bootlickers out there know that those subpoena powers that have empirically been used against minorities are probably going to continue to be used against minorities and those who don't curry favor with you, because that's the way that you operate things on a cronyism type basis. It's empirical, it's a fact. Next, and it's not just me saying it, you know, other people have said it as well. High powered law firms have said that right here in this town, so don't point your finger at me. All right, next, you know, you've got House Bill 1132 looking now to deputize these people, agents who've never had any form of BLEA training or anything like that. You know, like I said a couple of weeks ago, you might as well deputize me, because at least I actually work for a law enforcement agency, for Pete's sake, you know, and these guys haven't. That was Agent John Jung's whole argument, was to get BLEA training, and they ignored him, you know, him and his agent self. You know, they just basically ran him right out of town as if he didn't know what he was talking about. And yet, and still, we see the legislation sitting here to try to remedy that which he raised before with me and others. All right, so yeah, we know what we're talking about, even though you just don't like it. Next point. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, Rick Garza. You know, 2 tears in a bucket regarding his departure. He lied to Kevin Shelton when he said to Kevin Shelton that Kevin was making him aware of this issue about compassion clubs and all that. I have the King County Sheriff Police report from where they raided Vince Sears, and it was in conjunction with LCB. So how is Rick Garza not going to know about the presence of these clubs who were doing exactly what they told the black clubs they could not do? All right? It's impossible. He's there. Ipso facto, he knew. So therefore, he lied to Kevin Shelton when he said, "Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Mr. Shelton." It's just ridiculous, all right? And, you know, back to the bootlickers again. You guys, people are saying that we're overly critical of the board and this, that, and the other. You're only as good as your last performance, okay? I get chewed out at work on the regular. I have a demanding job, and I make mistakes. So I get chewed out, but then I bounce right back. We continue to do what we do, you know? If I walk on the tennis court and I get smoked, I'm only as good as my last performance. To date, you guys have not performed, period. You have performed in a manner to obfuscate the truth and to subjugate blacks. And your whole shtick right now in this whole social equity program is going to leave the black pioneers in the dust again. And that's what we've been saying. And it's got to come down that way, all right? In favor of this rubric that you know, all these buddy Jim Buchanan has manifested. I have the emails between Kevin, Jim, and me, all right? So don't say I don't, I have them. But we argued with him over this very issue. And this was like a year and a half ago. And he's trying to say, oh, well, no, this has got to be good for everybody. No, it's not. You know, you're
Christopher, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. You're not doing anything for the original black pioneers, okay? If they get a license, they'll be very lucky. And I remember sitting here 2 years ago with your legislative wonk on the phone, and another activist who will not be named right now. And they were saying, oh, these licenses should be issued in the next several months, okay? We're still sitting here, we're still hoping and praying, and I'm just saying, you're only as good as your last results, and you have none to date, except for obfuscation. Have a nice day.
All right, the next person signed up online is Mike Kasai.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, board members. I'm Mike Kasai, founder of Emerald City Collective 2010 and vice president of Black Excellence in Cannabis. We agree with the LCB extending the application window to April 29th. But what we do not agree with is the continued lack of communication by the LCB with the community and the Department of Commerce. This is the reason the application window needs to be extended. Yes, there is a backlog with Secretary of State processing new corporations for LLCs, but the lack of communication with the Department of Commerce, we believe to be the root of the issues. Mentors should have been given a month opportunity prior to the social equity application window going live to help potential mentees learn more about the process in detail in a one-on-one format. Make Green Go was not enough. The community deserves more one-on-one in-person help before the application window went live. There has been much disinformation from the LCB, which has caused an uproar from the community. We at Black Excellence in Cannabis have tried to be solution-based, working with LCB. Unfortunately, this seems to be the same playbook from the Hines report. LCB saying one thing, but then doing something different. After March 1st, LCB updated the website to give proper clarity on the application process. On the applying process. Applicants had the assumption documents would be uploaded when applying during the 30-day window. The update should have been there from the start. Today, I need more than 4 minutes, but I will write a more detailed formal letter of my concerns this week. We black cannabis pioneers are tired. The Black and brown community is tired of the same tactics we have seen for the past 10 plus years now. I'm currently mourning the unexpected death of my brother. Had I not been unjustly cut 7 years ago out of this industry, I would have had the finances to help my brother prolong his life, but I could not. This is my experienced trauma. Others like me have experienced some trauma as well. LCB should forward those submitted applications to Ponder Diversity Group while the window is extended to April 27th. Why cause Ponder a delay to start processing and scoring applications? Maybe this can help them start now and work out any issues without having to process thousands of applications. I started Emerald City Collective after the passing of my father, July 2009, to help medical patients like my father. I'm wearing my 1985 Laker championship hat, thinking about him as I remember watching our Lakers beat Boston and him telling me stories of picking cotton as a 10-year-old in East Texas. Then coming to Seattle to teach himself how to read. He had to fight for inclusion within the city of Seattle. I find myself doing the same thing. The topic is different, but fighting for inclusion is the same. We need clarity. We don't need disinformation. I'm just tired. We're tired. We need the LCB to do the right thing.
Mike, you have 30
Everybody
seconds.
Thank you. Lastly, I'm very sick and tired. The LCB knows that there is white retailers that did not qualify and they currently have multiple locations. They should not have a license. They should not be up and running, but yet they have made millions. While me and other Black pioneers have sat and lost on everything in generational wealth and income and have been traumatized.
Okay, the last person signed up online is Jim McCrae.
Oh, can you hear me now?
You bet.
Okay, thank you very much. This is Jim McCrae. Not a licensee, just an interested party, a potential consumer. 2 or 3 points today. One is regarding your decision to extend the application window of the social equity licenses. This is the second time that the agency has put their thumbs, intentionally or otherwise, on the scale of equity in this process. The first was one when the boundary of what was a differentially impacted area was changed by staff unilaterally, presumably with some input of applicants, and now to extend the application window. Now, we've heard the excuse that came out this week, the reason or the rationale, which is that there is some unspecified delay in the Secretary of State's or Bureau of Licensing Services, Department of Revenue, that's more than 10 days. Well, I've got 3 specific questions. I would really love it if you could answer these. One is, you have 46 slots available. How many, as of today or as of yesterday or as of the last time staff has looked, how many completed applications has the agency received for these equity licenses? Is it more than 46? And if it's more than 46, you are disadvantaging everyone that submitted their application in a timely manner relative to those that will get the extension. So that would be very nice to know that answer. That's something staff should have now. Second was, with regards to the Bureau of Licensing Services, what is their normal turnaround time on doing an LLC or a business entity? And what is the delay now? Not greater than 10 days. What is the delay that they're expecting now? Because you just almost double the length of the application window. You could make it 7 days longer, 14, 21, 28, 35 apparently. Well, you've opted to make it 28. That's 93% increase in the length. You know, fine, but please understand that by doing that, you're effectively disincenting the people that do things early and punctually. Now, in listening to your caucus yesterday, there was some blither going on about the issues with the Bureau of Licensing Services and timing and when they submit data and stuff like this. It brought back, that coupled with Mr. Kingsbury's application today, brought back memories of more than 7 years ago, when the Patient Protection Act licenses came up for the lottery, whatever you called it. There were two things really that people needed. They had to get one of the three, two of the three, or three of the three qualifications for B priority, 1, 2, or 3. But then the second thing that was within people's control was when they submitted the applications. Well, as the person that was number one in line submitting applications, you know, at the Bureau of Licensing Services that morning in Tumwater, you know, I did notice that when I showed up on the list within the LCB, I was number 345 on the list, not number one, number 345. So whatever problem there is with being able to figure out when something is submitted, Bureau of Licensing Services versus the Secretary of State versus your own internal systems, you know, I would suggest that the lessons that were hopefully learned 7 years ago, you know, should be acted upon. Okay, one last thing. So someone just please, if you could answer that question of how many.
Jim, you have 30 seconds.
Apply, that would be great. The second one is, and this is just a cutoff, 5367, your legislation, your agency bill, well, you know, I really hope that doesn't pass. There's a lot of, I think, unintended consequences if you do pass that. But 1772, it's not one of the agency's bills, but it's one that Kevin Waters, Rep. Waters, suggested came from a discussion he had with Director Garza. And
Jim, that's your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you wrapping up. We'll move to people who've signed up in the room here. The first is Bailey Hirschberg.
Bailey Hirschberg, Washington Normal. Thank you to the board for taking the time to hear from us today. 10 years ago this month, I got my first communication from the LCB thanking me for my input on the implementation of I-502. It's too early in the agency's process to provide you with definitive answers on whatever I asked about. It was nice to be heard. 5 years ago, I started working for Cannabis Observer and kind of moved more from being someone who was fairly aware of what the agency did to watching you guys more closely, helping inform people about what you do, and giving me opportunities to interact with you guys and being heard a little more. Earlier this month, I had my first of all the meetings I've had with LCB staff, probably 10 or 12 over the years. My first meeting that ran significantly over time. There's a really good reason why you guys stick to schedules and why most of the time that's not going to happen. But I had a lot to say, and I really appreciated Justin Nordhorn and Kathy Hoffman giving me the space to say that. And then when I tried to rush out of there afterwards, because I'd gone so far time, they said, well, we have some thoughts. Would you like to hear what we have to think? Sometimes just being heard can be incredibly powerful. And I know that people come up here and sometimes they're feeling like they're heard and sometimes they're not. And I just wanted to give you guys kudos that I'm now expecting every meeting I have with you to run that far over. That's altered my expectations. But also a little more critically relating to your guys' conversation yesterday on medical cannabis and on the potential of, outside of the petition you adopted, what kind of systems and changes you want to make that may best impact patients. And I would play devil's advocate in covering what you guys had said yesterday. Found myself realizing that if I have an endorsement on my store, if I have that endorsement and I'm on a list and I can get patients to come in and visit me, the odds that I'm making a sale really increase, regardless of whether I have a consultant there, regardless of whether I have compliant product. So kind of being surprised of what would someone get out of this without maintaining compliance, well, you know, maybe don't be so shocked. And the other issue of this is, as you're looking at what needs to be changed, I should say, as I watch a lot of your guys' events, I will kind of hear a refrain that sometimes annoys me, and that is very much, we're here to look forward. We're not here to dwell on what happened or how we got here, because you can lose an entire meeting to woulda, coulda, shouldas. But there is a power of people being heard. I know I'm getting close to that 30-second mark. And so I would say, look at medical cannabis, listen to patients, listen to their doctors. Obviously, you're going to have your own internal dialogue, but center those people as much as you
30
can,
seconds, Bailey.
because there's a power for them in being heard. There will be a power for you guys in hearing about stuff you may not have been responsible for, that may not even be within your power. Think of it like when a good idea comes to you in the shower. It is a chance and an opportunity for you to be thinking about this subject without focused exactly on only what you can do. It gives you a context that may prove incredibly valuable. So thank you for hearing me today.
Thank you, Bailey. Appreciate it. Last person we have signed up is Peter May.
Good afternoon, or good morning, Chair Postman, Ellen Droff. My name is Peter Manning. I'm the president of Black Excellence Cannabis. I come here today to bring a problem that we are currently faced with. At Black Excellence Cannabis, we have made it our goal to be solution-based. We have made it our goal to try to work out any differences that we may have with the LCB. That we've had a long struggle with the LCB in the past. We have been more confrontational than we should have been, maybe, but we have changed that and we are more solution-based now. And the reward for that is not what we expect. It's disinformation. We were given and told repeatedly that the rubric and the 51% would be judged off of one individual and one individual only. Not only was this recorded, this was also sent to us via email. We learned completely different that the rubric, the 51% now, in order to make up the 51%, you could take 9 or 10 people to make the rubric to reach 310 points. Whereas we were told before that that 51% only pertained to one individual. This is disinformation. This is information we received from Rebecca Smith. That's disinformation. We also received disinformation from Rebecca Smith when it pertained to the March 1st date. We informed her that we had heard in February that the March 1st date was going to be March 1st, the release date of the licenses. She's denied this emphatically and laughed it off as mere rumor. It was then posted that it was going to be March 1st. We also expressed to Rebecca Smith about the DIA map and how it did not fit the parameters that would include people of color. She said that they were unequivocally not going to change the DIA map. It reflected what it reflected. We met with senators. Senators heard our concerns, and the DIA map was changed. Why is it that we, an organization that represents the people, is given disinformation? One, we have been told that we need to confer to some portal, to some website to receive answers. This is not the same type of energy that was given to those people when they applied for 5052. White retailers actually received they received a welcoming hand, a plethora of information on how to obtain a license. It was just the whole thing was different. When Black people are reaching out for equity, we have to have all these different requirements, social equity plans, this, that, and the other, and then nobody knows exactly how we get equity. This is crazy. Not even the Black people that represent the Black community, such as Black Excellence Cannabis, was given proper information to relay it. We gave out disinformation on the premise of what the LCB gave to us. We fed our people misinformation.
Peter, you have 30 seconds.
This is not acceptable. Thank you.
Mr. Saad join.
No, Chair, I don't see him online.
Okay. All right, then that's the end of our business today. We'll adjourn the board meeting for March 29th, 2023.
Great, thank you.
See you, Jeff.
Bye.